Welcome to r/AskReddit. Here's today's question. Redditors that worked with a dating company, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, etc. What's the most insane user stat or behind the scenes fact you found out about? Here's the first comment. I have a friend who works for, I want to say Tinder. Anyway, the company isn't important. What is important is that her entire job is to remove inappropriate images. Her job is to look at wanker pics all day. 5 days a week. That's all. No stat. Just a weird freaking job. Here's the next comment. My ex-boyfriend worked for the Yahoo Italy dating site back in the early-ish 2000s. His job was to pretend to be a woman and message male customers just as their accounts were going to expire. This would encourage them to pay to renew their subscriptions. Once they renewed, he would ghost them. He only lasted for a few months due to how unethical it was. Here's the next comment. Guys swipe right on 47% of profiles. Women only swipe right on 12%. I knew some guys would swipe right more than women. Wasn't prepared for how little women swipe right. Edit. Here's some more. Searching for serious or casual relationships for men versus women. 61% of men want something serious, while 38% want something casual. 87% of women want something serious, while only 13% want something casual. It's worth noting on that last one that it's partially because of a difference in how men and women would describe themselves. If they are not sure, women would rather say something serious if they are not sure to see how something goes, but happy for it to turn casual if they are not feeling it, while men would prefer to say something casual and then happy for it to turn serious if they like them. This is why we've given in and added a not sure option in our big update next week. Feedback on chat/users. We are unique in that we only let you chat to 3 users at a time, so you have to end a chat to talk to someone new. When you end a chat, you have to give private feedback. Here's some of the feedback people choose. You can pick more than one. 34% ghosted/didn't say anything. 12% great chat. 11% polite and respectful. 11% not enough in common. 8% no chemistry. 8% hard to talk to. 2% rude/inappropriate. Why people ghost? We call ourselves the anti-ghosting app because we notify you if someone replaces your chat with someone new. Since you can only talk to 3 at a time, doesn't stop rejection, but at least you're not left wondering and waiting. We did some research with users to find out why people ghost on dating apps. They could choose more than one answer. 43% avoid the awkwardness of saying I wasn't interested. 37% they said/did something I didn't like. 36% was too busy and then it was too late. 32% couldn't be bothered to keep replying. 28% I forgot to reply. 25% couldn't think of a reply. 23% too many other people to respond to. 22% I've never ghosted anyone. 6% other. Source: I'm the founder of a dating app. Here's the next comment. I used to work at Bumble, although this was about 4 to 5 years ago. Globally, about 90% of the users are men, so there is a huge male to female disparity, although it's not that bad on a per country basis for some countries. The most depressing stat though was the histogram of word count in messages. Something like 91% of opening messages were just one word hey, and 85% of conversations were just one exchange long, hey, no reply ever. Looking at human, digital mating habits played out in data science form was really depressing. Update, yikes, this thread really exploded. Some people have asked me a lot of the same questions, so I'm providing answers here. When I worked there, we were not allowed to read the content of chats, only gather metadata about them, word count, number of exchanges, but we could not build models which analyze the content of chats. This chat was about food, this one was about holidays, this one was sexual. This was due to stringent GDPR draft rules / terms of service / privacy rules at the time, and Bumble took user privacy very seriously, so chats were never read or analyzed for content, not even by automated models. However, this was 4 to 5 years ago, and they may have amended their terms of service since then to allow it, or they might be analyzing content for non-GDPR countries, USA. Therefore, as others have pointed out, we don't know for sure that the word used most often was actually hey. It could have been hello or howdy. In the office, we always assumed it was hey, due to our own experiences on the app. But we did know with certainty that 91% of first messages used only a single word, so we guessed it was hey. The countries which had better male to female ratios, which I can remember, were the Nordic ones. Sweden and Norway were close to 50-50, and for a time, one of them even had more women on the app than men. Not sure how it is now. The GDPR rules were released in 2016. Even earlier draft rules for some industries such as banking / finance and telecoms, but were not actually enforced until 2018. This grace period of 2 years was so that firms could implement all of the massive legal and technical protocols for GDPR, and many compliance / tech departments in London did nothing but a mad dash sprint for 2 to 3 years straight to get GDPR compliant before the 2018 deadline. As such, Bumble was already GDPR compliant, at least in terms of user chats. Don't know about other aspects. Well before 2018, as I said, they took user privacy seriously, even before GDPR. We weren't allowed to read chat messages due to a combination of user privacy terms of service, specific to Bumble, and GDPR draft rules. I just wrote GDPR as a catch-all term for all of the various privacy rules in effect then, including terms of service. But yes, I agree, the rules were not enforced yet. I apologize that I wasn't specific. I wrote my reply quickly this morning not thinking it would explode like this, and so I just blurted out GDPR without getting pedantic about which rules in which years. Apologies for any confusion. All these numbers are pulled from my memory of what I saw 4 to 5 years ago, and thus are not canon law or academic paper worthy. Here's the next comment. My old boss was the financial controller of a big dating site. He kept on seeing these big invoices for modeling agencies, and initially thought it was because of the big parties they used to host. When he asked about it, it turned out it was just content for the fake profiles they created to lure in users. Here's the next comment. I ran operations for an online dating company, notably not affiliated with Match. From database analytics I can tell you a few things. Men initiate contact around 80% of the time in straight matchmaking, and if you are a woman looking to date other women, and you simply initiate contact with another woman, you have a good chance of success simply because it's very common for women to match, but then neither initiates contact. If I recall correctly, we were able to determine that it takes on average about 3 dates before sex happens. I don't recall how we worked that out. I'm not a data analyst, but presumably it was some keyword-based algorithm looking at chat messages. We got so many requests for information from the police that we had an informal system with them to save them from wasting time getting warrants for information about people who we didn't have data on. They would ask about a particular name / email / whatever other identifier, and we would just say yes, we have data about them, or no we don't, and if we did, they'd then go get the warrant to get a copy of it. The other thing I can tell you from our analytics, that really shouldn't be at all surprising, is to get some decent profile photos. Go get your talented friend, or just hire a photographer to take some really nicely lit, well-composed photos of yourself and watch your match rate soar. Here's the next comment. I would love to know how openly cynical the algorithm really is. My feed on Hinge shows absolutely no one I'm interested in. And suddenly, the roses feature pops up. I'm interested in all the people in the roses section. But, oh, it's £4 to buy 1 rose, which is no guarantee of a match, much less a date. They want to keep you using the app and spending money for as long as possible, and their slogan designed to be deleted is such BS it's comical. And you can't turn to other apps because they are all owned by the same corporation. Here's the next comment. This was years ago now, but I used to work with a guy who had been an engineer for Match.com. He said 99% of the profiles were inactive, and that 80% of the active profiles were men. He didn't provide numbers, but also said there was a huge disparity between the average number of messages sent to women versus those sent to men. According to him, all told the site was mostly men reaching out to dead profiles and never getting responses. As I said, however, this was years ago, so it's entirely possible that they've cleaned the site up since then. Here's the next comment. Not been working, but a friend wrote her master thesis about the different criteria in online dating and real life. Almost half, 43%, of the female participants who were in a relationship told her they'd never have swiped right on their current partner. Other interesting results were that over 60% of men they wrote with on apps and agreed to go on a date would have no chance if they asked in real life. Edit. Since many asked about the thesis, I'll ask her if she can share it here, but be prepared, it's in German. As to the second point, I don't know exactly how she worded the question in the survey, but if I recall correctly she was referring to clubs and the like. Here's the next comment. We used to create fake accounts and chat with users. It was everything from someone having a premium account that wasn't getting responses to bored employees. Here's the next comment. I never worked at OkCupid, but years ago I reported a few profiles, and then they made me a mod. There were more fake or scam profiles than wanker pics. We think some profiles were reported just because someone didn't like how they acted, but once you start image searching, you would typically find that those profiles are fake or belong to real people that are definitely not on a dating site. There were a bunch of accurate and proven catfish reports, and a lot of cute pets. Pictures have to be of you, not your dog, and we would comment for the other mod's cute dog, but breaks rules. Also Google the image of the dog, and sometimes find out that it's someone else's dog. Here's the next comment. I worked for Match for a couple years. This is probably widely known, but women frequently lie about their age and weight, and men lie about their height and salary. Also, it's a big problem that women are inundated with DMs, while most men get none. Here's the next comment. Finally, an AskReddit question I can answer. Throwaway account, because much of this information is not necessarily positive. I worked for a dating app for a few years in a role that was pretty high up where I was privy to almost all of the inner workings of the app. I won't say which one, but I think my experience probably is applicable to other apps as well. We had a murder on our platform. The top of the company got interviewed as witnesses. To be honest, there wasn't really anything we did or could have done about it, but it is crazy to think about. One of our members got scammed out of 6 figures, and there was nothing we could do about it either. She was older and lonely, and the person used an attractive picture and kind words to play off of that. If you let them, people will find any way to scam and abuse those who are lonely. Some of our systems for detecting and removing scammers and spammers were far more advanced than our systems for actually creating matches. Also, we found older women were actually the most likely to be scammed. You can make your own conclusions from that. To that point, the algorithms are less sophisticated than you think. They mostly consist of educated guesses and then trial and error to see what creates the most engagement. This engagement could be anything from returning to the app to sending messages. The main goal of the algorithm is always to get you to pay, never to actually ensure you meet somebody in real life, as much as we tried to lie to ourselves that it was. No dating professionals or psychological professionals were ever consulted when we were building our software that basically plays Cupid and changes the courses of people's lives. I kept thinking it would be a good idea to have experts and scientists tell us what determines attraction and sets up a relationship for success, but nobody was ever interested in hearing that. Instead we made our own choices about how to build this thing. I met hundreds of our users in person, and they were all pretty great people. Many of them were willing to come in and talk because they were struggling with actually finding people and matches on our app. It was sad that our software was failing them. Some of the best, most lovely people really struggled to find a partner. Almost every dating app has a significantly larger percentage of men than women. We toyed with doing a test of blind dating where you couldn't see a user's profile picture until after a match, but that failed really quickly. People truly are superficial. Contrary to many users on this thread, we were a large dating app, and we didn't actually create any fake accounts. We were certainly proud of that. That being said, there are some that do it, and it's relatively obvious when they do. The profile is usually a very attractive person, somebody who probably has no need for dating apps, and it's usually shown very early in the queue, and the photos tend to be of Instagram influencer level quality. That's the biggest giveaway. I can likely answer questions too provided they are general enough. Here's the next comment. This is probably going to get buried. I used to work for shag.co.uk as a content creator. And by that, I mean it was me who replied to messages from users. I used to get paid between 11 pence and 18 pence per message, with bonuses for hitting certain message amounts. It was mostly horny guys who just wanted to chat and get off, but I met some interesting people. Number 1, a 60s guy whose wife had died a few weeks prior, hadn't had sex in years, needed a release. Spoke at length of how he had picked me because I looked like his dead wife in her prime. Number 2, a guy who was in his 80s who was an ex-porn star. Sent multiple links to his videos and such. We spoke at length regarding his trips to Africa and all the charity work he'd done. Number 3, a lot of obvious horrible people. It was pretty scary what people would admit to with enough pushing. Number 4, a lot of guys who would agree to whatever weird fetish I dreamed up on that day. Horny people be horny. It all came to an end for me when a guy told me his dad had died that morning and he wouldn't be around for a while. I got reviewed for my reply, which was, "I'm really sorry for your loss. If you need to talk, I'll be here for you." They suggested that I should have replied, "Do you not care about me? I have needs too." I just realized that the site owners really just didn't give a crap at all. Here's the next comment. Most of the girls are bots to get male clients in. Fake profiles stolen right from Facebook. When the chick, if ever, signs up to a dating app with Facebook, her fake Facebook profile is deleted. Here's the next comment. I used to work at a dating site in the UK. I was on the tech side, but most of the staff was a group of young women who manually approved images and text changes to profiles. There was about 10 to 15 of them, and the turnover rate was about 1 a week. The work was just so mind-numbing. About 10 times a day they'd shout that they'd got another one, which basically meant one of the hundreds of thousands of men on the site has differently thought. I've thought of something nobody else has tried. I'll upload a picture of my wanker, at which point they'd all laugh at it, cancel the profile upload, and go back to reading about people's choice of pets, or whatever else they thought was interesting. Here's the next comment. So back before online dating, I worked at one of the telephone dating companies. Voicemails, live chat, stuff like that. They are all out of biz now. Lots of interesting tidbits. The people who make the ads for those services are just regular people. Moms, little old ladies, and was rarely men as you'd think. Only men paid to chat or send messages. Didn't matter if you were gay or straight. Women were totally free. One of the services was created by a gay fellow who wanted to meet dudes. So, he reviewed all the profiles for the best guys. The people who recorded the prompts were just regular office people, not professionals. I recorded a set one time, and some dude called up asking if he could meet me because he liked my voice. We used to regularly review ads posted by customers to prevent prostitution ads or overly explicit public stuff. One time a guy recorded his public ad. "Hi, I'm Chuck, and I have a pickup truck. If you want to blank in my truck, call Chuck." Here's the next comment. Managed and worked on a short-term personal security detail for one of the C-listers of one of these in LA. Not mentioning by name, because I'm not trying to get doxxed, but there is a huge problem with people getting stealthed with HIV and other venereal diseases, as well as being mugged or robbed while messing about on these apps. And the victims will threaten to lash out at the company violently, or even show up at the offices demanding to speak to someone in charge, while in the initial anger stage, despite the company having no personal hand in the situation beyond arranging the medium for which to meet. Apparently the company can't even send out a warning about the suspected user, who is accused of stealthing to LE, or public health, due to counsel advising that it's slander, with anything less than bona fide evidence of that person being positive for the disease, committing a crime against the other, and or that person meeting the other, and or having intercourse. The companies do cooperate with law enforcement on a case-by-case basis, if I recall correctly, but they do have the right to clam up and wait for a subpoena before they share user info/chat logs, etc. Meanwhile, there are multiple people who have been robbed of thousands of dollars, given a disease, and many more victims waiting to be had, while the company sits on its rear and lets the complaints pile up. Even then, it's a whole messy area where it's cheaper to not even get involved. Even banning the user from the service involves some number of steps. I don't blame the victims for being livid, but what a whole rear flipping mess. Got a few still images of the people we were keeping an eye out for, and they looked like completely normal guys and girls who just got pushed to their breaking point, all because they trusted someone from a dating app. Could happen to anyone, honestly. Here's the next comment. This is my favorite bit from my time working at People Media, which is part of Match, several years back as a software engineer. One day while deep in the depths of code related to our spam filters, I forget what I was in there for, I stumbled across a curious code statement. It was like, if user ID equals X, return. Which is a very curious thing to see. It basically said that, if the user was a certain person, don't filter them as a spam profile. Immediately I laughed, and was like, ugh, what in the actual bleep is this? A few veterans explained that there was a guy who sent out messages at such high volume that he would constantly trigger the spam filters, which if you've ever been on a dating site is actually a kind of hard thing to do. And that he'd called up to complain multiple times, and they'd investigated his messaging, and that not only was he messaging this many people, but that he wasn't even copy/pasting his messages. Dude just really liked to reach out to women. Nothing inappropriate, just a true volume shooter. So eventually someone just broke down and added a backdoor for him specifically to the spam filter. It blew my mind that a single user had their own piece of code specifically to make their profile work in our code. Think millions of users across multiple sites, and this guy specifically had a little piece of it all to his own. That an engineer had taken time to write, and QA to test, and DevOps to deploy. That alone had to easily offset any amount of money he'd paid over the years. But there it was. Here's the next comment. I worked as a software engineer for a dating site in the mid-2000s. Literally every single female profile was fake. They were generated profiles using arbitrary data, and paid for lewd photos from various sources. The sites we ran targeted guys paying for the site. Meanwhile, if you signed up as a female, the site would be free, simply because the ratio of guys to real girls was so huge. The fake female profiles would also message newly signed up guys' profiles almost straight away, giving the guys a confidence boost. They'd often message straight back, then after a few messages, which purposely got more heated, over a few different profiles, the guy's account would get a notification saying pay to send more messages. If the guy's profile didn't pay, the site would continue to send messages from different fake profiles, all of which were behind a paywall, in order to see more photos, or reply at all. The refund policy was super short, so if, and by the time the guy's profile realized he was just chatting to AI profiles, he'd request a refund, but often denied due to refund policy being short that he agreed to at sign up. By the time a given site was commonly known as being a scam, we'd spin up another site, different name, logo and design, and repeat the process. This went on for months/years with hundreds of sites under various names. Thanks for watching.